Hi everyone, we welcome you to the first action point for Key to Change Raise Responsible Boys series, so that we can bridge the gender gap. We should be able to prevent the gender discrimination, the gender violence, and gender exploitation. Though we are going to talk a lot about how to help boys, I think as a society, we all need to acknowledge that all of us, even women, have a lot of biases. And it's not just that men are biased towards women or against women, women are also biased against women because it's a very complicated thing because that's the way we are raised. We have a lot of cultural stereotypes, we have a lot of community stereotypes that we grow up with, and we get so comfortable with those stereotypes, we start believing that these are ultimate truths. So today the first action point is about recognizing, acknowledging, assessing, and working on your own gender bias as an individual, whether you're a man, a woman, a transgender, or whether you belong to any age. The first and foremost step is that we ought to, and especially as adults, if we have to train the boys and girls for the future, the first and foremost thing is, as adults, as an individual, I need to understand what is my own bias towards a particular gender. So, gender bias can be conscious, and sometimes it is also, like unconscious, unintentional. So, we have to be able to, give some time to this question: what are my gender biases? Gender biases is about this disproportionate, you can say, the favor that we show towards a gender, or a disproportionate discrimination that we have against a particular gender, and that leads to a lot of consequences for the individuals involved. So biases exist in our own families, biases exist in the society, biases exist at work in the workplace as well. There are still so many countries in the world where women and men, even if they're working on the same jobs or the same role, their pay is not equal. When you talk about gender biases, there is the concept, we have this concept of maternity leave, but we do not have, there are still so many countries, like especially the developing countries, we have to catch up with the paternity leave because the father also should spend time, or he needs to spend time with the infant. So these are the common gender biases that we have around ourselves. And if you have to say in the home, I remember when I was teenager, I always saw that in it was a joint family, so we had cousins, and I've always seen that discrimination and biases in the other homes. Thankfully, my parents, in spite of in spite of the fact that they had a lot of pressure, cultural pressure, community pressure, I never experienced gender bias in that way. Of course, to an extent I have, but within the family I haven't experienced as my cousins would have experienced, because there was separate set of rules for girls just because they were girls. Like, you can't go out without permission, like beyond 5 o'clock is or 6 o'clock, it was like a taboo for a girl to go out. A girl cannot go out alone. She has to, if she has to study, there are specific courses that she has to pick up from or choose from, like let's say a teacher or a doctor, anything. Like, let's say if a girl wants to be an engineer, it was quite difficult, and I'm sure there are many such Indian households even now who kind of differentiate between a girl and a boy on field work. And because of the poverty also, there are many families who discriminate between the genders based on based on the stereotypes they have, based on the cultural upbringing that they have, and also based on the resources they have. So it is always, men and boys are considered to be the stronger gender. And I am sure this is the scenario around the world. And they are projected that way, they are raised that way, they are made to believe that way. And the girls, as always, like, the hammering is that you are weak and you're not so strong, and your brother has to protect you, or your father has to protect you. So this sort of, you can say, I call this as the the fracturing of the strength. You're kind of fracturing the strength of both the genders in a way by discriminating and having a bias. So these biases also, the most simple example I know that, when we go to these municipality schools and teach people, I get to know that, if there is just, the girls actually stand up and say that, ma'am, if there is one glass of milk that my parents can afford, my brother gets to drink that glass of milk, because they say that he's strong, he needs to be stronger, he needs to grow stronger, so he needs it more. And even the chores in the household are divided, and they are categorized based on the gender. And of course things are changing now, but there's still a long way to go. So the first important thing is, if we want to create responsible boys, or if we want to have healthy boys with a healthy attitude, boys who will respect other genders, boys who will respect every individual around them, it is very, very important, as mothers, as fathers, as teachers, as citizens, as all of us, we work towards acknowledging, understanding, and realizing what our gender biases are. So these gender biases actually lead to a host of consequences, because once you have a gender bias, there's a lot that comes into the picture, right from restricting the education, to restricting the choice to take up a certain stream or a certain subject or a certain profession, to the way I said, like the distribution of resources in a house, in a family, is also affected with your own gender biases. The stress is also affected by the gender biases. And our gender biases, they don't come that easy. I mean, it's not just about the opportunities and resources. Gender biases are actually what you call is, they also give rise to this microaggression in boys. Now, this is a very important term I'm talking about. How many times it happens, there are these stereotypical jokes on women and on men separately, more so on women, that women are supposed to just do the household work, or if there's too much of talking happening, so it's all irrelevant, and women do that, or women don't drive well. So there are plenty of jokes around. So this is known as the microaggression that our society in a way promotes through these memes, through these jokes, through these random candid, you can say, comments, like even in our friends and all, it, like, you just get these comments. And it's not just that it's men against women, it's also women against women so many times, like, and that is a pain point. That is definitely a pain point. So I want to highlight that these aggressors, your kids also are picking it up, because they are seeing you, they are watching you, and then they kind of process it. Okay, it's okay to kind of label someone based on their gender. It is okay to bully someone based on their gender. It is okay to laugh because she's a woman or he's a boy. So these are the things that kids kind of pick up. What is important is that you stop this, you can say this intention, or this temptation to be gender biased, because you've been used to it, by consciously, by mindfully trying to ask yourself, what is my gender bias? That is a major question that I want you to ask, and that is the first action point. Because on the surface of it, if I'm like talking to 100 people in a room, and if I ask them, there are a lot of gender biases, and okay, come on, let's list ours, and everyone's like, no, we treat our son and our daughter equally, we treat our the men and women equally in our organization. But when you actually sit down and start thinking about it, start working about it, you will realize that you will come with a long list of intentional and unintentional gender biases within your own system as an individual, within your own unit as a family, within your own organization, in your own workplace, and even in your own society. So it's very, very important that we address gender bias as the first action point. And the first step is to recognize it as adults. Once I recognize it as a mother, okay, these are the list of gender biases that I have. For me, it was very difficult when my young 3-year-old toddler asked for a doll to play. Though I'm into this field, though I'm working so much, though I completely vote for gender parity, and I am an activist myself, but to be very honest, I did feel a sense of discomfort when he first asked me for a doll. It was a struggle to talk to myself and then filter out things and then, be rational about it and agree to it. Yes, why not a doll? If he's a boy, there's no such rule book where he should not be playing with a doll. And I have given him his doll, and I constantly tell him, yes, daddies care so well, they take care of their daughters so nicely. They are so good to their partners, they're so good to their sisters, and that's how. So the doll is not just a female, you can say, toy, but it can be used to teach sensitivity to boys. I will be talking to this in the next few videos, but right now I want you to understand that when you have a gender bias, it impacts too many choices. It impacts the lives of millions of girls around, millions, your own daughter. I remember my cousin was not sent to study in a medical college just because it was in a different town and she was a girl. And I'm sure, if she had been a boy, she would have been sent. So opportunities are cut, their wings are clipped. And I think there is no difference between a girl and a boy. And there should be no differentiation between a girl and a boy. The brain is almost the same. Everything is same, but the way we perceive and the kind of meaning we give just because of the cultural stereotypes, that completely changes the game. And there begins this microaggression where boys start believing that, okay, I have the authority to give permission to my wife, whether she should be working after her, after we get married or no. I believe that these permissions and everything, they should not be around once people become adults, right? We should be having our free choice, irrespective of our gender. So, this gender bias is one thing that is affecting all of us. And there are a lot of popular stereotypes that the media also, kind of enforces. There is a lot of, I would say, you can say, is this gendered marketing where even these companies, these people actually market products saying, okay, this is for girls and this is for boys, and this is, like blue is for boys and pink is for girls. And even the toys, the play items, there's so many things that are marketed based on the gender. And that's, even the media has a lot of gender bias, I would say. So, for instance, I think play is a very, very important aspect when it comes to helping children learn a lot of things. And that's one area where our gender biases as parents influence the girl and the boy child. And it is important to recognize what your gender biases are. First and foremost, you also have to be able to understand that this gender this gender inequality and this gender discrimination is not just a women's problem. It is not just a girl's problem. It is not just something that is affecting the girls. It also affects so many boys. It also affects what you call as men, because they also have a certain set of rules given by the society that you ought to behave in this way, this strong and this active, this aggressive, this hypersexual. And that is the pain point. It is coming with a lot of repercussions. So it is not just a women's problem. So gender biases can be reversed. Gender biases you can unlearn. So there is no such thing that I cannot unlearn my gender bias. You can unlearn your gender biases once you decide to sit down, reflect, journal it, write it down, and understand what are my gender biases. The entire family can actually get together, sit together, and ask each other, okay, what is it that we think that, sometimes I am like partially behaving towards a particular gender. And I'm sure the kids come up with the best of the instances where they point out, okay, you are gender biased here and you are gender biased in this instance and in the other instance. Because there was one social experiment conducted where an activity was given to kindergartners, girls and boys both, and both of them performed equally well. And then they were rewarded with chocolates. But the twist was that these chocolates were, the quantity of chocolates that was given to boys was far bigger than the quantity of chocolate given to the girls. And when the young boys, kindergartners, saw this and they said they saw that their friends have got very less chocolates, their reply and their response was, why did they get such fewer chocolates? Because they did as good as we did. Why this? They also deserve the same amount of chocolates. So what I want to highlight is that kids learn discrimination by seeing the people around them. Kids learn the gender biases by seeing the adults around them. Kids learn the gender biases when there is a constant media reinforcement, and the kind of characters they see, the kind of characters that they read about, and the kind of conversations that happen around them. That's how kids learn their biases. And these biases have a huge consequence. And that's what I'm saying, that and the easiest way to track your own gender biases by asking yourself, what are the different ways in which I show my microaggression towards gender. So, and whether you're a woman or a man, I've been repeating this again and again, whether you're a man or a woman, it's very important to identify that, you have a gender bias. And if you have one, if all of us have, all of us, the way I said, for me, it was a struggle in spite of being into this field, working on this subject. In spite of that, I saw a discomfort. So I'm sure people around, whoever's listening to this, will have a gender bias. List down those gender biases, tag us, send us those gender biases, and we will also help you out how to work on those gender biases if you send it to us personally. And commit mindfully that you will be careful, because once okay, these are the areas and these are the experiences and these are the examples where I tend to be a little biased, you automatically start working on those biases. And next time you will be more mindful, you will be more careful, and you will be more strong-willed to say that, okay, I will not do this. And that's where the real change will happen. So sit down as a family, journal it out, talk it out, discuss it out, find out the different areas of you as a person where you have gender biases, and then begin that conversation with your boys. Help them to understand their gender biases. When they come home from school and talk about some incident that randomly happens at school, and your young 6-year-old boy might just say that girls are such crybabies, I hate to cry. That's a beautiful pitch to start the conversation about gender parity, to start sensitizing your young boy about, okay, this is not a rule that all girls are crybabies, or girls are crybabies, or boys shouldn't cry. So you see what I'm trying to get to the point is that first, as an adult, refine your own gender biases, get rid of them, and take this as an opportunity to sit down with your youngsters. And it's not just that when they come up with topic, observe them carefully, observe what they how they play, what they play. During their play, also observe what they're saying to each other, how they're talking with each other, and then gently guide these young boys and make them realize that there is no such thing as that boys are powerful or girls are powerful. Together, of course, we are more powerful, and we are more strong, and we are more, I would say, better those ways. So I want you to take this as the first action point, that is, recognize, acknowledge, assess, and work on your own gender biases, and start this conversation with your boys and with your girls. And as women as well, I would again want to add, as women, don't try to put other women down, because there's a lot of leg pulling that happens women to women, and that leg pulling, the major cause is the gender bias. So we also have biases towards other women. So get rid of your biases, break those stereotypes, and set new rules and play the game fresh. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this action point. And do send us your experiences. Do send us how the conversations went. And we would be happy to put it on our social media, and also to gain a lot of insight about this, understanding your own gender bias. Thank you so much.